Hello. Welcome back to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a great day because we're talking about something a little uncomfortable. I know, this is the one podcast where it being a great day is the day we're willing to take on these conversations that nobody else wants to talk about. Something that you didn't expect to feel once you gave yourself permission to rest. Bear with me. You stopped running on empty. You gave yourself permission to take more breaks, to not be overworking in this paradigm of hustle and force that dentistry has created for you. You finally took the break you desperately needed, but now you're noticing something else. Tasks are slipping. The team is unclear. You're procrastinating. The to-do list is building up. And in the quiet, in the recesses of your mind, there's a new fear showing up. Am I losing control? Will taking care of me mean sacrificing success? Here we go. Today we are bringing on this very important conversation because I think so many of us in dentistry are beginning to realize, oh my gosh, I do need to give myself permission to rest. This is crazy. My whole life cannot be about work. I can't get to the end of my life and look back and think I spent more time serving patients than I did present with my family. I worried more about success in the office than I did the lunch hours I spent with my child or the vacations with my husband. You know, you get to that point where you're like married for 20 years and you think, I don't even know who you are because I haven't spent any time with you because we've been running on this treadmill next to each other and just high-fiving each other once in a while, but we're totally different people. Okay, so maybe you're at that point where you've realized, yeah, this isn't a if, it is an imperative. I need to make time for myself. And how do you navigate also maintaining integrity in the practice, in the business, and the excellence of the patient care that you value, that you've promised? If you're a woman in dentistry, whether you're an associate or a partner or an owner or you work in a DSO, you've likely worked so hard to keep your own peace. You've probably been on this journey where you've realized, I need to take more time off. I need to have more boundaries. You've likely stopped overcommitting, maybe. This episode is for you if you've already put those practices into place, and maybe you've already worked with a coach that helped you around slowing down and giving you back value of taking care of yourself, that you've learned to stop chasing your worth, and now you are resting more. You're taking time for yourself, and you're proud of that. But now the rest is beginning to look and feel like avoidance. Let's talk about it. I have a phenomenal client who I was talking to last week, a successful orthodontist, great business owner. She came to me after doing some important inner work with another coach, and she used to live in burnout. So she sought out another coach because she was exhausted. She was frazzled. She didn't have time for her family. She didn't have time for her husband. She was neglecting her body. And this coach really helped her to give her permission to take care of herself. And she's so grateful because actually when I was talking to her, she was on vacation with her husband. And it felt good. She was finally stepping away from work so intensely and had learned how to put up those boundaries and not be people-pleasing to the extent where she was eroding her own quality of life. Because she realized that was exhausting. And the coach helped her recognize she didn't need to deserve rest. She didn't need to earn rest, that she just was absolutely worthy of it. So she got her support and she did the work. And we were celebrating that because she was saying, I feel so much better. My body feels healthier. My relationships are deeper. I feel really good about making time for my kids. She can take time off without guilt, and she trusts herself to do that. But now she's noticing a different tension. She said, I don't feel overwhelmed anymore. I've stopped tying my worth to how much I get done. Amazing. But now I'm procrastinating, and I'm noticing things are slipping. I'm afraid that my team isn't as clear. Things in the office don't feel as organized as they were before. I usually live my life with this beautiful organization where, everything in my home is really organized, but my practice is beginning to feel like a little bit of a chaotic mess. And I'm starting to worry that if I keep giving myself permission to leave the practice early at the end of the day, not work through lunch, take vacations, that things are going to start falling through the cracks. And I've noticed that the to-do list keeps growing. Every week, I keep adding things to the to-do list. I'm never getting things done. So she didn't want to go back to overworking. There's that uncomfortable, messy middle that we find is when we finally get over that burden and wounding of overdoing, that there's this fear of getting back into it. How do I avoid getting back into overworking? But I also don't want to feel like I'm quietly losing control of the practice or that the quality of what I really stand for is beginning to slip. And really, what she identified was this is beginning to stress her out again. Because in the back of her mind, all she can think about is, okay, I'm going to ignore the to-do list. I'm going to walk away. I've promised myself this vacation in Mexico, but I know there's a list growing and it's not getting any attention. What if rest has turned into avoidance? Let me just hold some space here for a moment if you're feeling this way. Or maybe this is exactly what you're scared of and why you're avoiding rest. Because what you're thinking is, if I take time for myself, things are going to slip at the office and I'm not going to be able to offer the same quality and caliber of care. And I really care about my work. It's important to me. When we get to that place where we finally start allowing ourselves more space and we start noticing that the systems have not kept up, I want to let you know that you're not falling apart. You're rebalancing. It's almost like a little pendulum swing. If you imagine, on the one hand, you had swung that pendulum over to way overextending and overworking yourself. And now you're swinging it all the way over to actually taking care of yourself. And there is a rebalancing that's taking place. This is the part that nobody talks about. The space after burnout, before things start feeling strong and stable again. You're not crashing anymore, but you're not quite steady on your feet yet either. So whether you're a practice owner trying to lead your team who's finally taken your real first vacation in years, or you're an associate who's learned how to stop people-pleasing every single patient and trying to not feel like you're always one step away from being found out, I want to just honor that this season of your life can be a little disorienting. But here's what I want you to know. This doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean that's a one or the other. Work hard or slack off. You're not lazy. You're not broken. All those same voices that you had before you started actually taking care of yourself, beginning to whisper, "See, I told you so." I want to remind you, you're rebalancing. It means you're adjusting to a new way of being, and your body needs recalibration. This new version of you doesn't require shame or overworking to keep things going. We don't have to go back to that overworking paradigm. And what I'm going to share with you today are some 3 very easy new perspectives and steps that you can take when you find yourself in this really interesting new space. Number 1, I'm going to invite you to notice what's causing the stress. This isn't just about the growing to-do list. This isn't just about noticing there are things slipping and sliding that aren't getting paid attention to. It's about the story that this growing to-do list is telling you. For my client, the story was, if I keep putting things off, this whole practice will fall apart and it will be my fault for wanting to take care of me. The fear isn't only about the growing to-do list. It's about what it means if you're not keeping up. And that's very important because that's where the stress steps in. And when the stress steps in, it keeps us from paying attention to the to-do list. It's not that you're taking care of yourself. It's the stressful thought process that's putting you in avoidance, that's putting you in procrastination. And when we can identify what that is, that fearful thought, it means I'm not good enough. It means everything's about to fall apart. It means it's going to be my fault. It means that taking care of myself is selfish. It means that I can't have it all. All those fears, but identifying which one is true for you. Am I losing control of my business? Will they think I'm lazy or unreliable? What I would love for you to first do is pause and identify what that fear is. Because when you can identify it and label it, it takes a little bit of the pressure off. It brings you back into the driver's seat of your own life and into the decision-making place of your own business or your own career. Because once we can identify what it is, we can start to debunk that myth. And just by doing that, we take a little bit of stress off of your nervous system. It's your nervous system that's in fight or flight that's preventing you from having clarity over the tasks. And that brings me to step number 2. Avoidance is not a time issue. Bear with me. It's a confidence issue. Avoidance is not a time issue. It's a confidence issue. My client said it perfectly. She said, I've noticed when I'm really confident about something, I do it at the office. When something comes up and I'm like, I know how to handle this. I get it done. I do it. It's checked off. It never makes it to another list. But when I'm not so confident about something, when I'm beginning to doubt myself, when I'm unsure about my solution or I'm unsure about my ability to address this task, I put it on a to-do list. So every time she was not feeling very confident about something, it was adding to her procrastination, which was adding to her workload because she just kept putting it off. When I'm confident, I do it. When I'm not confident, I push it off. So instead of asking, why am I procrastinating? What I'm going to suggest to you is asking, what am I not feeling really confident about here? Or what part of this task has me feeling overwhelmed or unclear? And sometimes it's just that much. Sometimes it's a story of this is going to take a lot of time. And especially if you're just coming off of healing this wounding of overworking. Sometimes these tasks, we remember that they were big and they took a lot of work. But identifying that is really important because it allows us to recognize, oh my gosh, I'm a different person now. I don't have to pressure myself to overwork. I can actually do things with ease. I've incorporated some great practices that allow me to delegate, to chip away at things on my to-do list, to create space and time, and more importantly, to create safety in my body. Because if you're working with a great coach, and I want to reiterate this, I hope that your coach is also paying attention to nervous system regulation and paying attention to how it feels in your body, using your body as a phenomenal resource to bring yourself back to calm. Because the moment we're in fight or flight in our bodies, we cut off access to executive function. And executive function is what allows you to address those things on your to-do list. So the question is, why am I feeling overwhelmed right now? Why am I feeling not confident about this decision? What would help me feel just 10% more prepared? Because clarity builds confidence, and confidence avoids avoidance, or rather reduces avoidance. This isn't about powering through, and I know that's what your body immediately goes to. I remember this. It has a memory of the way you used to do things, which was over-functioning and stressing and overworking and staying late and working through lunch. Your body remembers that. So the moment that item happens, that task, that new need in your practice, your body goes into complete freeze. And that's when procrastination sets in. So it's not about powering through. It's about lowering the resistance. And we do so by creating clarity of what is it that I don't feel confident about right now. And then I'm going to invite you to introduce structure as support, not punishment. And I know that you've come to this beautiful place of taking time off more and stepping away from the practice more because you want freedom. You want more autonomy. You want more space. You want more spontaneity and choice. But we find freedom and spontaneity when we create a groundwork of structure as support. Think about it. If you're going to jump out of an airplane, that's the ultimate in freedom, right? You want to know that you have a parachute on your back and that parachute works and that somebody has assessed the distance to the ground and that they've calculated how long you're going to fall, and there's going to be a very specific time when you pull on that cord to release the parachute. The structure is what gives you the freedom. So we're going to introduce structure as support, not as punishment, not as reining you in or as caging you in or as limiting your spontaneity, but as safety for your nervous system and safety for your own mind. You don't need to go back to a rigid schedule. You don't need to go back to hustle culture, but some light structure protects your peace. So maybe, and this looks very different for everyone, and this is something that you and your coach can work on together, is maybe it looks like finding just one 10-minute task a day that you can finish each day. Just one. Because think about it, if you create a 10-minute task each day, by the end of the week, you've done 7. As opposed to keep adding them to your to-do list, and now your to-do list is 45 to-dos long, and it's totally overwhelming. I just did this with my closet, by the way. My whole closet needed to be cleaned out and reorganized. I did 1 shelf. 1. The next day, I did 1 shelf. While I was getting ready in the morning, I just did 1 shelf. Then the next time I did it, it was when I was putting my pajamas on. I did 1 shelf. And oh my gosh, by the end of the week, I had half my closet done. It doesn't have to be attacking the entire thing at one time. So that's one suggestion. Another suggestion about incorporating structure without overwhelm is to block out 20 minutes in the middle of your week, so let's say Wednesdays, to review open loops. Not to solve them, just to see them. 20 minutes. That's it. I like Wednesdays because you've gotten into the week a little bit and you still have a little bit left of the week to address certain things. And as a leader, which every single one of you are who are listening to this podcast, when you're looking at that list, I want you to identify which of those items you can let go of and which of the items you can delegate. It is so important to keep asking ourselves that question. That to-do list that keeps growing, you can start to give away. Either completely cross off your list, or give them away. Here's an example of something to completely drop. I used to send out a letter to every one of my referring dentists every time I took a panoramic radiograph. You can imagine, that is a lot of letters because we took PANs all the time. We took them at the beginning of treatment, midway through treatment, at the end of treatment, and periodically in between if something went wrong. And we were just kind of assessing. Every time I took a radiograph, I'd send the review of the panoramic radiograph to the referring dentist. Dentists gave me feedback that they didn't have time to read it. They gave me feedback that they could read their own panoramic radiographs. If it was in my system and getting sent to them anyway, they didn't need me to rewrite my review of the pan. And if they had questions about it, they'd call me. Guess what? I just knocked an entire action item off my to-do list. A huge one that was taking up so much of my time. But I wouldn't have recognized it if I didn't have that 20-minute slot in the middle of the week that wasn't about pressure to get things done, that wasn't asking me to take action, so it didn't activate my nervous system and create stress. It was just clarity. I'm just going to review this list in the middle of the week and identify what can really be taken off and what can be delegated. So those are some really simple ways to start stepping back into structure when you've stepped away from hustle and flow. Hustle and push, not hustle and flow, hustle and push. When you've learned from some coaching or from some self-development practices that you've been doing to really not put 100% of yourself in your practice, but allowing for room and spaciousness for yourself and your family and your rest, but also to get back to that place of integrity with your patients, integrity with your business, and integrity with yourself. Because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to turn a blind eye on this growing to-do list in the name of, I'm looking after myself, I'm taking care of myself, I'm taking a break, I need a break. That's not actually taking care of yourself. That is bypassing. And it doesn't feel good. And it's actually activating more stress and fear in your system. And you deserve better. You deserve to actually feel good. You deserve to actually love the work that you're doing and be proud of it and know that you're doing it to a level of excellence and take care of yourself. So structure isn't the punishment, it's the support. It's how you rebuild that momentum without losing yourself again. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. So if you're in this middle space right now, you're done with the burnout, but you're unsure how to feel steady again, I've made something for you. It's the morning drive. It's my 10-day audio series. It's free. It's just for women dentists. It's short, honest, and grounded. And it's just a few minutes in the car on your way to work, 10 to 15 minutes at the most. And it's to help you feel like yourself again. And you can start listening to that today. Just go to getthemorningdrive.com. I'll leave a link for you in the show notes as well. Everything here is available to you. But most importantly, I want to remind you, you do deserve to take care of yourself. And your patients deserve you taking care of yourself. And your team deserves you taking care of yourself. And your family deserves you taking care of yourself. Because when you do, you show up as your best self. And it does not have to come at the cost of your beautiful career or the excellence of the care that you provide. But most importantly, where I want you to remember is when you feel good is when you can do good. But if we're bypassing and avoiding a little secret fear or shame or procrastination, we're right back to where we started again. Take care of yourself this week, my friend. You deserve it. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.